Hello, Westman, and welcome to one more edition of our show, Cafe Diversity. On this show, we take you on a journey to meet the diverse people of Westman and the many ways in which they contribute to our communities, their background, and their many stories that they have to tell us. This show is brought to you by Westman Immigrant Services and also WCGTV. My name is Jaime Chinchilla, and I am the cultural facilitator for Westman Immigrant Services. Today, I have the pleasure to have with me two gentlemen who are very talented people. They are active musicians in Brandon, Manitoba, and they are all also members of the popular band Latino band. James Russell, how are you today?
Good, yourself?
And Franklin Leon.
I'm good, thank you.
So Franklin, let's start with you. Where are you originally from?
Well, I'm from El Salvador. I'm from El Salvador, San Salvador.
And as you know, there are many people from El Salvador in Brandon, but we always ask them this question: what brought you to Canada?
Yeah, we are so many, I think, right now in Brandon. That's good. And why I came to Canada? Well, as for work.
And where do you work as of right now?
Well, I work in Nipua, but I live in Brandon.
Now I want to introduce James. James, where are you originally from? Because we ask that question to everybody here in this show.
Oh, that's always an interesting question for me. I'm originally from Ontario. I was born close to Toronto, but I've lived in 3 provinces, and before Brandon, I've lived in 6 different communities, but I've spent about 11 years in northern Manitoba before Brandon.
Now, we always have people on this show that are either newcomers and have a lot of stories and are contributing to the community, and we also have a lot of different people that are working with them or doing any kind of project. And that's the reason I wanted you to be in this interview. You do a lot of different things with the Latin American community and the immigrant community in general. Now, Latino is only one of those, but let's start with that. How do you get involved in playing music with the Latin community?
It was kind of by accident. My whole involvement with the Latin community was kind of by accident, but with Son Latino, I was just at one point asked by a friend to come and sit in to play with them for one gig when they needed a substitute, and that gig got rained out, so I never actually got to play with the band, but it just helped me build a relationship with the band until I was eventually asked to become a full-time member.
Okay, and that's interesting because I know you're a very accomplished musician and you have played in different bands and you graduated from Brandon University, is that correct?
Yes.
What year was that?
That would have been 2009.
Okay, and how long ago you played with Son Latino band?
I've played with Son Latino band for 4 years now.
All right, so that makes, almost at the time you're going out of school, you start playing with Son Latino, and you've stayed all that time. Mm-hmm. How would you, resume the experience in a few words of all those years playing with them?
It's been an absolutely learning experience. When I first joined the band, it was simply this is a neat new trick I could learn to help me get gigs further down the road in my career, and it's really since then really turned into a second family for me. It's been almost like a second school for me, where I've learned a lot, not just about the music, but the cultures that go along with the music.
I like the word family because for people that are watching the show, Son Latino band is a band based in Brandon that's born out of the influx of the immigration. And they usually play at different venues in town and outside of town. But it's not only about music, but it is a community thing. And you mentioned the word family. So I want to ask Franklin now about your family, and then also talk about your musical family. But you are a father for few children, I hear. So.
Yeah, I am. I'm a father of a 10-year-old boy, Diego, and I have 3 more girls, 5-year-old girls, 3-year-old, and 8-month girl too.
And I can
Yeah.
see the smile when you talk about your children. Now, are they born in Canada too?
3 of them, yes. My 3 girls, they born here.
So they are all Canadian citizens.
Yeah,
And, are you a Canadian citizen?
we are Canadian citizen now. Yeah, I became Canadian citizen last year, July last year, and yeah, feel proud of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now that comes out in some of your songs and the lyrics of your songs, and we're going to talk about that too. But we were mentioning family before, and that's where I want to get. That's why I asked you about your family, and my question right now is, how do you do this? You do a big community thing, which is singing and playing in festivals and all that. How do you manage to do that with such a big family?
Oh yeah. Sometimes it's getting tough because pretty busy with 4 children, but there's always time. There's always time if you're planning your time. And yeah, music. You love music, so there's always some part for what you like. And in this case, music is what I like.
Mhm.
And
What do you do in the band? I
I'm
already
a
know the
singer.
answer, but I want people to know that.
I'm a singer, and I also play the güiro and güira.
What is a güiro?
That is a small percussion instrument, and that's what I do.
So you sing and
Sing.
play that at the same time, right? It's
Yes.
a scraping instrument.
Mm-hmm.
You are both have something in common too. You are songwriters for this band. Franklin, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I became songwriter just by natural thing. Somebody told me that I have a perfect speech, so that means that I can write a song just by natural. I don't have to sing a piano or a guitar note or anything like that. I just write a song, and it's easier for somebody to make all the arrangement that it needs.
So you write the songs, and then someone else in the band would arrange it.
Yeah. The
What
rest
are
of
your
the
songs
instrument.
about? They are in Spanish, I suppose.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
They have some part of in English, but they are Spanish.
And what do they
Latin.
talk about?
Well, most of them they just by things that it happened to you, like situations in your life, and others you just get inspired and make a sound just by nothing, like you just thinking something.
So they are about everyday life, you would say.
Yeah.
James, your case is very interesting because you're also a songwriter for Son Latino, but you write your songs in Spanish, which is not your language. So
Right.
how does that work for you?
Well, depending on who you ask, not very well. No, it's as I got to know the music, the style of music more, and I began to want to do original music and write songs for the band. And for me, it just didn't sound as authentic in English, so I took on the task of trying to learn basic Spanish. And yeah, I get some proofreading help from the native speakers of the language, but that's...
And that's interesting because we were mentioning before you came out of school, then you started playing with the band, along with other projects that you have. But it has been more than just playing, as I want to get to now, because you have been involved in other kinds of events. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, is my involvement with the Latin community, like I said, started completely on accident. The same year I joined Son Latino, I also decided I wanted to get active again, so I decided to join the Brandon Senior Men's Soccer League. And the only team that had any space for me was a team of all from El Salvador. And so it's just all at once, I didn't know this aspect of the community existed, and all at once I just really started getting involved and really just dove headfirst into it. And so over the years, I've really had a desire to help the community perpetuate its culture, not just for themselves, but for the next generation coming up.
And that's really interesting because, well, I have been centering my questions to you about, you having to write in Spanish and being involved with the Latin community. The band itself and the soccer league and other events are events and are projects that help the community to, integrate culturally. How do you see, or have you seen that happening with the band and with your other projects?
Yeah, absolutely. With the band, our popularity over the last few years has really grown amongst the non-Latino community, with people really fascinated with how, just what is the Latin community, and is it more than just the stereotypes they hear? And with us, with Son Latino being instrumental in starting the multicultural festival, it's really brought us out into the community for people to not only see our cultures, but also for us to see how they relate to our cultures, your cultures.
And that's really interesting because when we talk about integration, we're talking about how these things like cooking classes or Latin music or a dance group from Mauritius impacts the mainstream community. But Son Latino is also an interesting case because if you look at the band, like we were doing before off cameras, most of the members are Canadian people, white Canadian people, and a few of them are Latin American. So the band itself is a very good example of cultural integration.
Yes.
How does that work for the band? Is it a smooth process, or did it take some time to get people to work together in a cultural thing like this?
It was smoother than you would expect it to be. There's always going to be hiccups when dealing with people from two different cultures, but we've got such a great group of people that there's really no huge hiccups or issues that occur with integrating of the two cultures.
Do they all know Spanish now, or?
No, that'll always be a barrier.
Okay.
What I think is that is a key for what is Son Latino right now. So we have this Canadian group in the band that they are very good musicians. Most of them they already finished their studies in Brandon University in the music area, and that's why I think that is what is Son Latino is getting so interesting band, because we have that fusion with Latin people and the Canadians, and we are kind of making different style of music right here in Brandon, Manitoba.
Yeah, it's multicultural. So talking about that fusion is interesting because you would expect that some of the music or musical background of the members comes out in the music you play. So I know that a lot of the students and people that are playing Son Latino, they are jazz students and also classical. Does that happen? Like that background comes up and mixes with the Latin American tradition of doing music?
Yeah, I think so. The Latin American tradition of music is full of improvisation and a lot of the aspects that are really prominent in the jazz culture. So it's a really easy transition between the two, but there's definitely, if you look at some of either original songs or new arrangements of songs by members in the bands, there's chords, there's rhythms that just that don't scream Latin. They do have that fusion of the two different aspects to them.
I think that diversity, if you want to call it like that, is what makes the band very popular. And the other reason you're here is because when we talk about cultural integration that happens with bands and dance groups and all that, we're talking about how accepting a community can be. And I want to ask Franklin now, do you feel accepted doing your music in Brandon, Manitoba? Singing in Spanish and doing all these styles that are foreign to...
Oh yeah, people really like it. We can see how people enjoy our gigs, and yeah, it's make us really happy to give it something to share with them, like in this case music, and yeah,
No,
we really enjoy it all together.
Yeah, I think important in two ways, because you're giving locals a chance to experiment a new thing, and also a chance to see something that's very important for their new neighbors. But also as a newcomer, it helps. I think it helps people to feel welcomed and feel that they can, still practice their traditions and share their culture in a foreign country. And do you feel like that?
Yeah, as I said before, yeah, like we can see that people really enjoying what we're doing, and that's make the band happy, because we know that if they enjoy it, that tell us that we're doing a good job. Yeah, and also we're learning, like James said before, it's a learning experience for him, because he's learning the Latin part of the band, but we're learning too from all of them, all the Canadian group in the band, because they all so experienced musicians. So we're learning from them, and it's kind of shared too.
Mm-hmm.
If you see that, there's a all sharing between all of us, and now we can transfer all for the ground in the group, the people who is in front of the stage.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And also, we were talking before about the impact of these cultural events and groups in Brandon, and that's what I think Franklin is trying to explain too. Son Latino Band is a huge band. You wouldn't expect a band like that to exist in a city like Brandon, which is not a big city. It's not, let's say, Winnipeg or Toronto. How would you explain that happening in Brandon?
It would come just out of a desire from the people in Brandon, from the Latin community, to have pride in their culture, and then really have kind of us, I don't want to use the term sympathizers, but I'm going to, us Canadian sympathizers who really latched onto that culture to embrace it almost as a second culture, second family for our own.
And the point I want to get with this is that we have in Brandon sort of a treasure with immigration, because the numbers and the impact that we have in the city is not, similar in other smaller communities that are the same size of Brandon or similar in population. But we do have here a big variety and offer of culture, if you will, and events like the Global Market, cooking lessons, bands and dance groups that are active and participating in all sort of festivals. Which gets us to the other question I had for you. You have also done events for the Latin American communities that are not related necessarily with music or primarily with music.
Right.
Can you let us know a little bit about those?
Well, with my capacity, with my day job with the Keystone Center, I helped during the World Cup promote an event where we would display the Colombia games in the knockout stage of the World Cup to the community, just to give them that, bring the community together, give them an opportunity to share in a stadium environment, and just show some pride.
How did that go?
It went really well. It was a lot of people were very grateful for it. The atmosphere was unbelievable, and it's just I couldn't have asked for a better event that way.
And so you did that for the Keystone Center, where you mentioned you work for.
Yes.
What's your position on the Keystone Center?
So I am the recreation booking clerk, so I manage booking schedules for all the different recreational aspects of the facility.
So it also means that the Keystone Center itself is looking for ways to incorporate, to integrate culturally with the community.
Right, absolutely. So they're always looking for events, new different ways to just help the community grow.
What are other events that you have in mind for the immigrant community?
Well, there's one that I'm still not talking about it yet until I get some more details, but there's just, I also run an indoor soccer league, and while it's not primarily for immigrants, it's primarily immigrants that end up using it, and it's really cool to see the Ukrainian, all the different Latin communities, and the Canadians coming together to play against each other.
Mm-hmm. Now let's go back to the band, which is one of the main reasons you're here today. Both members and songwriters of Sun Latino. How has the band grown since it was initiated? I think 4 or 5 years ago you were mentioning. So how has that process go? How every project that you do grows and has a process. So I want to know a little bit of the beginnings and the band nowadays.
Well, you mentioned it before that Sun Latino is it's a big band, but it's just the kind of music that we make, the kind of music that we play, and that's make us a different band, because we need trumpet, we need trombone, we need saxes, and there's all styles. They don't need all that kind of stuff. We need a small percussion, all percussion stuff, and that's make it a huge band. And it's just about the style of music. And by the time we started this project, we are even bigger band as we have right now. Yeah, we have.
So right now you are 11, and how many were the members at that time?
I remember in one gig we were on the stage 21.
Wow.
I remember we were 23, 2 rehearsals before that.
I don't even know how they put you on stage with that.
We were so many people that they really want to enjoy the band, but at the end it just by natural things the band is getting small, and I think right now we have the number. It's not a specific number for Latin music, but we are reaching the really
the ideal number of people, maybe.
No, it's not that. It's the instrumental that we need for the music that we want to make. So we're finally reaching the number. We don't know if we still have too much or less, but we're reaching the number.
Yeah,
the right
that's
number.
interesting, and that gives us, me and the people watching the show a really good picture of how it started. It was a lot of people, everyone would get together and play. But I want to hear a little bit about the process also. You are a musician, that's your profession, and for every band it's usually hard to get out and get gigs and get things going. How was that process for Sun Latino?
It's always a challenge to try to get gigs for a band this size. You want to be rewarded financially. You want a fair financial payment, compensation for what you're doing, and when you have to pay 20 people, that's pretty tricky to get that kind of money. But I guess he was saying the band was really, really big before, and that really limited us to local gigs. And as new members, such as myself and some of the other students from the university came into the band, it took less of a focus on a community group to just give people a chance to play, and I started really focusing more on being a performance professional group. And so that's why it's downsized over time. As people have left the band for whatever reason, we haven't replaced them simply because we want to focus on getting the ability to perform more. And the smaller the band is, the easier
And
that is.
And that professionalizing process has taken you places, right?
Yeah,
So
it's-
what are some of those places?
We really could have never expected this, and people ask us what's our plan, and we never really have a grand plan. The band has really taken on a life of its own, and it's given us the opportunity to play at the Winnipeg Jazz Festival 2 years now, and also 2 years in a row at the Calgary Latin Festival, playing just before some of the biggest and best names in Latin music.
Yeah, it's a challenge practically, because like the big band we had before, we know the one person, he can do the 2 things, 3 things in a band, like what James do in a band. He sing and he play his instrument, I think, and I play an instrument. Before, I only sing and my instrument, there's other person. Now I replace that person and I sing and play that instrument. And
So it's also the experience that you get on the style that makes you get even better.
yeah,
and
that's
be
how
able
the
to-
that is how the band is getting smaller.
Now, we're almost running out of time, but I want to. You mentioned big names in the Latin scene, and I want to know from Franklin. You have been singing along with these big names in the Latin music in the world, and you have done that in Canadian stages in Calgary and Winnipeg and other places. Did you used to sing in El Salvador for a band?
Not for a band, but I know that I sing before, and people like, so I decide to enjoy this band, knowing that I'm gonna do it right, because it's Latin music and I know about Latin music, so.
And that's pretty interesting to me. Like
I
you
think
started
that-
singing in Canada, and now you have made quite a career, if you want to call it like that, singing in these festivals and all these sort of events, which to me talks about how open is this country for opportunities for people like you or me who are immigrants to it.
Yeah, opportunity is very, very good, very important work. I had the opportunity to sing in a stage with bigger band, like around the world band, like for Latin music, and that makes me proud and tell us that we're doing a good job with Son Latino.
Well, I guess the work that you do, guys, should make you proud, and we want to hear more of that and continue to do it because it's very important for the community. We have run out of time, so I want to say thanks for being here. I want to say thanks to you for watching, and thanks to WCGTV and Westman Immigrant Services. This is Cafe Diversity. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.